How's it everyone? Welcome to another racket review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent and today I'm reviewing the newest racket by Head. This line holds a very special place in my heart because it's the line that I used to use all throughout high school, and I'm glad to see that it's still going strong. So the racket we're taking a look at today is the 2025 Head Radical Pro. Let's check it out. So first, I'd like to give a quick shout out to On Point Sports here in Hawaii. That's where I got this racket to test out. They have a great selection of tennis rackets, tennis strings, pickleball stuff, all kinds of sports gear. So if you guys are ever in Honolulu, Hawaii, check out On Point Sports for all your tennis related needs. Alright, so the Radical line, like I said in the intro, holds a very special place in my heart because I used the liquid metal Radical MP all 4 years of high school. And in fact, I actually have that racket right over here. This is one of my favorite rackets of all time. It has seen some better days. It's quite beat up, but I love this racket. It carried me all throughout high school. And the liquid metal line with its 4 distinct liquid metal corners over here has a very distinct and unique feel that you just can't find in modern rackets. I don't think the newest Radical is going to feel like this because rackets have geared or shifted more towards dampening, and this racket is on the stiffer side and more crisp. I really miss the days of this kind of technology where the racket was a little bit more stiff, direct, and responsive. But the new Radical has the Auxetic 2.0, which does increase stability and feel, or so Head claims, and I have found that to be the case in most of their rackets. So first off, I want to know what you guys think about this new Radical paint job. It's super orange. You can see this thing from a mile away. I don't really know how I feel about this one. In fact, I think it's a little bit too much orange. I like the previous edition. It was very nice with the orange head and then the accented navy blue. Radical has always been a navy blue and orange type of racket, and I really like that paint job. This one is just too radical for me, but let me know what you guys think of this paint job in the comments. As far as new technologies go, Head has incorporated something called Sound Grommets into this racket along with the Auxetic, and I'm assuming by looking at the grommets here, I think the Sound Grommets are in the 3 and 9 o'clock positions over here. It looks like it's a slightly wider, more rectangular grommet. I don't notice anything up top at the 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock positions. The grommets look pretty standard, so I'm assuming the Sound Grommets are in here. This is still pretty early, so I couldn't find anything regarding the Sound Grommets on the website, except for the fact that the Sound Grommets are supposed to enhance the string bed deflection to give more power, to get that trampoline effect, and also it's supposed to cut out on the sound and the vibrations, which is nice. I don't really like that pinging vibration sound when I hit. So I'm gonna try this without a dampener, see if I notice any difference, but usually I put a dampener because I hate that pinging sound. And along with that, the Auxetic 2.0 is in here, as well as it has maintained the graphene technology throughout the head. Alright, so let's take a quick look at the specs. Here they are. The specs remain virtually unchanged from the previous edition. It's a 98-16-19, but it's a pretty tight 16-19. The weight and balance indicate that it's a little bit more on the advanced side, 315 gram static weight and 315 millimeter balance, so it gives it a nice head-heavy, stable feel. I don't know the swing weight and the stiffness offhand because, like I said, it's still pretty early and Head hasn't published any of that information yet on the retail websites. So the Radical line is known as the People's Racket. It's supposed to be a very user-friendly racket. This is the most advanced version, but Head markets it as the player is supposed to be able to hit any shot from any place on the court. And to be frank, I've actually found that to be the case with the old Radicals. I'm an all-court player that likes to play high-risk tennis. I like to go for corners, the sidelines, as well as drop shots and angles, and the Radical for the most part allows me to achieve that, and it has always been one of my favorite rackets. It has kind of taken a backseat to the Speed, Extreme, and the Boom recently, but I do still like the Radical, and I did love the previous edition that I tested a couple years ago. Alright, so without further ado, I'm excited to finally get this racket out on the court. It's been a while, but the Radical is one of my favorite lines, so I'm excited to pick it up once again and get on the court. But before we do that, if you guys are liking this content and want to see more, Be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So let's get into the pros of the new 2025 Head Radical Pro. This is one of my favorite rackets of all time, well, at least the liquid metal version, so whenever a new Radical comes out, I'm always excited to try it. They will probably never release a Radical that has the connected feel of the liquid metal series ever again, but the Radical still remains a very versatile stick, and that versatility is what I like most about the Radical. I call this stick the Toyota Camry of tennis rackets. It's reliable and gets the job done without making anything difficult and can be used by pretty much any type of player. I am an all-court player and I love the Radical because I can play my aggressive attacking style from the baseline, but also attack the net, poach aggressively, and mix it up with deceptive touch shots. It's also an underrated racket on defense because it is pretty stable. In recent years, I've leaned more toward the speed line because it is just more solid all around from the baseline, and that is where I want more help. But the Radical is also great from the baseline because of the stability and plow through. In my opinion, the Radical Pro feels more stable than the Speed. This allows for much better plow through and that helps in my return game. The return of serve has always been my favorite shot with the Radical, and part of it stems from my past as a fan of 𝐦𝐤𝐬𝐷. He used to use the oversized Radical and he would step into the court, shorten his backswing and rip returns, leaving servers dumbfounded, and that is exactly what I try to do too. Obviously, I'm not Agassi, but many of my opponents have told me my returns are heavy and unexpected. Regular rallies from the baseline are also pretty easy with the Radical Pro and it's very stable so it doesn't get pushed around. If I try to rotate my hips quickly on a fast incoming shot, I sometimes don't catch it clean. With the Radical, those off-center shots are a lot more forgiving in terms of power because they won't lose as much pace even when hit off-center, and that is important for players who are accustomed to high-speed rallies with other skilled players. But defense is another area where the stability comes into play. Although I tend to prefer head light and whippier frames, the disadvantage to those frames is that defensive shots where I'm scrambling or outstretched tend to not have as much power or depth, and that allows my opponent to continue pressuring me. The stability of the Radical Pro lets me push through slices easier and get lobs deeper. Transitioning back to offense is less challenging with a stable frame like the Radical, although the head heaviness can sometimes be a detriment, which I'll touch on later. Spin potential is not something the Radical line has been historically known for, but I have to say, I definitely notice much better spin on my kick serve with this update, and this is likely due to the new Sound Grommet system. This is different from the extreme line spin grommets, which are located at the 12 o'clock position. I think what's happening with the Radical Sound Grommets at 3 and 9 o'clock is that it allows the mains to slide out of place more because there's more string displacement. That results in more snapback and better spin potential. I've always struggled to hit effective kick serves with the Radical Pro in the past because it was sluggish coming over my head. This rendition was also somewhat sluggish, but I noticed a lot more bounce on my kick serves and I could reliably get the ball to kick out of my opponent's strike zone. The stability was definitely more of a help on my slice and flat serves. The slice flat hybrid serve into the body or down the tee is a serve I've recently started working on and it was working wonders with the Radical. The hardest part is accelerated from behind my head, but once I got the swing going, the racket did the rest. The serve would be heavy but also had some curving action and my opponents often struggled to return that shot. The stability and plow through of the Radical Pro was also amazing at net, particularly for someone as aggressive as me. When I poach, I need something to either be stable or have a large sweet spot. Anyone who has played doubles against hard returners know how hard it is to catch the ball clean when poaching across the middle. The Radical Pro is stable enough where the racket doesn't twist in my hand and lose power if I don't catch the poach clean. This also meant the transition volley was easy to control and keep low. Less stable rackets tend to flutter in the hand, and when that happens, it increases the chance of me popping that transition volley up high for my opponent to smash. The Radical was so easy to approach the net with because all I had to do was grip the racket tight and block the ball in front of my body. Even when I was outstretched on the transition volley, I never really had the issue of popping it up. The stability also made hitting angle volleys easy. All it takes to hit an angle volley is to time the shot and turn the wrist in the direction you want the ball to go. Because any slight unintended twisting of the racket can cause an errant angle volley, stability is crucial. The Radical Pro is one of the best rackets for volleying in my opinion because of the stability, versatility, and power it provides at net. I also personally like the more classic head shape of the Radical than something like the Boom or Yonex isometric heads.
The extreme line is also similarly shaped, and this classic shape has longer main strings, which helps my two-handed backhand tremendously. Because the mains are longer, I'm able to get much better power, depth, and net clearance on my backhand. No longer do I only use backhands on defense. I can really rotate and pressure my opponents with this shot or change direction and go down the line reliably. Needless to say, the stability is also great for slices. The Radical has always been great on offensive and defensive slices. I touched on defensive slices briefly, but on offense, the plow through of the frame allows me to hit a low gliding slice. There isn't as much side spin action on my slice as with the Extreme, but I'm able to push through the slice better with the Radical, resulting in a deep slice I can follow into the net. So needless to say, the thing that impressed me most about the Radical was its stability. This allowed me to swing out knowing that off-center mishits wouldn't result in weak or errant shots. However, good stability comes at a cost, and that leads me into the next section. So now let's talk about the cons of the 2025 Head Radical Pro. Great stability in the head comes at the cost of a sluggish feel. This may not be an issue for stronger players who have no problem swinging such a hefty stick. To be frank, the Radical is not what I would consider really taxing, and it isn't as hard to maneuver as something like the 𝐦𝐨𝐬 Tour or the Wilson RF series, but I still struggled to bring the racket over my head and snap my wrist on the serves. The new Sound Grommets definitely resulted in more spin on my kick serves than previous renditions, and I definitely appreciated that help, but the Radical isn't as whippy as the Extreme or Speed or even the Boom, and in a drawn out service game I could feel myself getting tired trying to exert energy to hit a kick serve. The Radical is more suited for players who want to hit booming, flat, and slice serves. I tend to struggle with head-heavy rackets at the net as well. The Radical provides good punch and put-away power, which helps when I'm poaching or when I need to dig up a low volley, but when I need to react fast or need to stretch for a volley, the Radical takes more effort to get the racket into position. I have a tendency to try fancy drop shots or angles even when my opponent hits some decent pace at me. This requires very precise timing and racket head control, and it is also a high risk and frankly stupid shot I wouldn't recommend my students try if I were still coaching. But I like to deceive my opponents by changing pace, and this proves difficult to do with sluggish rackets. But honestly, the Radical isn't the biggest offender I've tried, and it isn't something that a little tinkering won't fix. And lastly, the feel is a bit too muted and dampened for my liking. I mentioned this in the intro, but they just don't make Radicals like they used to, and I wish there was a way to make a racket more responsive, but stringing with a crisp string would be the best option. So although the sluggishness did affect me a bit on my kick serves and reflex volleys, overall it isn't a deal breaker at all, and I still love the Radical Pro. If I were to use this racket again, I would open up the butt cap and weigh it down to give the racket a more whippy balance for my specific needs. So, who is the 2025 Head Radical Pro for? Honestly, this is a tough question because this is one of those tweener rackets that's on the slightly more advanced side because of its weight and balance. However, the versatility of this racket means just about anyone who can swing it without fatigue will probably be able to win matches with it. I think a heavy hitting baseliner who plays against other heavy hitters and big servers would benefit most from this racket because of the stability, power, and control. Baseline grinders who don't really hit super hard but like to keep the ball deep and force mistakes will also perform well with this. So another iteration of the Radical is here, and honestly, not much has changed except for slightly more spin potential in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments if you've tried the new Radical. What do you think of the color? And what is your favorite racket line in the Head family? Be sure to leave your comments below, and I'll see you in the next review.
Thank you for watching this review of the 2025 Head Radical Pro right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.